My name is John Passfield. The title of this reading will be John and Lewis Carroll, Video 4, The Mock Turtle's Story. So here is my book, John and Lewis Carroll. Wonderful. A picture of John there on the cover. He's in his backyard, and a door opens, and he sees some strange things. Here's a summary as printed on the back cover. As John the writer sits beside his pond, polishing a chapter of his new book, a door opens up in the grass, and the characters from Alice in Wonderland and Alice Through the Looking Glass peer up at him from the darkness. John tumbles down, down, down through a hole in the ground to Wonderland, where the characters are busy rehearsing scenes from a third Alice book, which they hope John will persuade their authors to write. But what if their author, Lewis Carroll, has other ideas? Now, this is the original Alice book, the annotated Alice by Lewis Carroll. Annotated just means there's lots of notes in this edition about all the interesting, mostly mathematical conundrums, you might say, in the book. But there's only two books, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. So the characters who speak to John, who are the Wonderland characters, would like Lewis Carroll to write a third book, and they asked John to be an intermediary. It seems like Lewis Carroll is not all that eager to write a third Alice book. So, in chapter 1 of this novella, my novella, John and Lewis Carroll, John is sitting in his backyard polishing a chapter in a novel that he has just completed when a door opens up in the grass beside him, as I just read. In chapter 2, John realizes that the eyes peering out at him from the darkness are those of the characters from the two Alice books, only two, Alice in Wonderland and Alice Through the Looking Glass. By some mysterious process, John is forced to tumble down, down, down with those characters to Wonderland. So that's essentially what happens in that summary that I just read. During that tumble, each of the characters tells John that they hope he will agree to talk to their author, Lewis Carroll, and convince him to write a third Alice book, one in which each of the characters will have a different role to play than they have had in the first two books. So they're all in the first two Alice books. They all want to continue as characters, but they want different parts to play. Now here in chapter 3, John is taken aside by one of the Alice in Wonderland characters, the Mock Turtle, and told a story that the Mock Turtle wishes John to hear. So, let me read from the chapter in which John speaks to the Mock Turtle. I'll go to page 15 first of all. This is in 3 segments. Here's the first segment. John, I would like to talk to you privately, the Mock Turtle whispers. Excuse me. He motions me aside from the others with his flipper. Let's walk a little bit. Pretend I'm giving you a tour of Wonderland. Keep your face as bland as it is. Don't be startled by anything I tell you. Take it in stride. We come to a scene of an 18th century ship, and we walk inside. There's a gangplank and a dock. Turtles. Hundreds of turtles are being carried up the gangplank. This is me, says the Mock Turtle. I'm being carried onto the ship. And as Tracy's in the arms of a burly sailor. We're a delicacy in Europe, John. This is quite a pernicious trade. He calls to me as he's chucked down into the hold. I'll be weeks in here. I'll be lucky to come out alive. His voice has a hollow sound. He's down below. I'm up top. I stand on the deck and peer down into the hold. Well, that's the first section in which the Mock Turtle talks to John. There's 2 or 3 pages of imagery, and then we come to the second section. A fugitive, John, a fugitive. This is the English countryside. I'm being hunted. Hear the bang of the hounds? It's the Mock Turtle again. He has motioned me aside. He wants his story to be the centerpiece of the new Alice book. I was a real turtle, John. I was proud of who I was. My reality was something I never thought I'd deny. See me crouching under this hedgerow? Hear the bang of the hounds? Hear the hoofprints and the shouting? Hear the drunken shrieks of the ruffians from the town? Come out with your flippers up. a harsh voice imperiously demands. The turtle turns to me with fear in his eyes. Wish me well, John, here I go. And he slides into himself as the hounds and the beaters and the horsemen try to take him alive. Well, that's the second scene in which John speaks with the mock turtle. And let's find the third scene here, which is over the next page. Again, some imagery between the two. The imagery between the two and now the third scene in which John talks to mock turtle is illuminating imagery. It comments on these events. My lord, he says he is not a turtle. Everyone in the courtroom guffaws. Order in the court, growls the magistrate. He has a right to present his case. We'll have no mocking in this court of England's laws. Now, sir, you deserve every bit of protection, depending on who you are. The law is a gibbet for the guilty. The law is an open door for the good. Are you a turtle, sir? Or are you something else? If you are a turtle, your fate is sealed. You will be flavoring tomorrow's broth. You will be boiling on the hearth before the next meal. But if you are something of another order, then there will be no restraint put upon you by the law. Here I go, sighs the mock turtle. Give me a hug before I go, John. I feel his flippers hugging me warmly. I am a real turtle, he whispers quite low. Then he turns and slides into himself at the bar. Your Honor, says the real turtle, I am innocent of the charge, for, you see, I am a mock turtle. I swear that I am no turtle at all. On his face I detect great pain. So this is why he constantly cries. He was forced to deny his essence. A mock oath from trembling lips. Far from his home on a tropical island, with a flipper on the table in a court of law. So those are the three scenes in which the mock turtle asks John to listen to the story that he's involved in, that he's so unhappy with. It's a story that isn't him, is his point. Now, before I read a note here, I'm going to hold up another book of mine, John and Mother Goose, The Carnival of Tales, a novella by John Pasfield. So I'm going to talk about both my Alice book, my book, John and Lewis Carroll Wonderfall, and this book, which of course is the John and Mother Goose book. Here's the note. A person to whom I had given a copy of my book, John and Mother Goose, The Carnival of Tales, the one I just held up, asked me a question, and the question was, when are you going to get back to writing fiction on serious topics? This book, John and Lewis Carroll, Wonderfall, is similar to that book, in that many of the characters are not based on humans. They are based on non-humans. The characters in John and Mother Goose, the one I just held up, are based on characters in nursery rhymes, and the characters in this book are based on the fantasy characters of Wonderland. So my answer will do for both books about non-humans. My answer is that even though every word of these books is what I would call humorous, whimsically humorous, rather than laugh out loud humorous, they were written by a person who lives in the real world and who is highly conscious of the many terrible things that are going on in the real world. I asked my friend to consider that very few people in the world in which I'm living are happy in the places where they're living and are seeking to lead lives that are not those into which they were born. When I turn on the news on my television or my laptop or my phone, I can see thousands of people lining up at the southern border of the United States, hoping to get to lead a life to which they were not born. I can see thousands of people riding on leaky, dangerous boats from the coast of Africa towards the coast of Europe, hoping to get to lead a life to which they were not born. I can see people living in refugee camps holding out plastic containers for a small dose of rice or other foodstuffs, hoping to keep their families alive until such times as they can leave those camps and go to another place, somewhere else in the world, where they can lead a life other than the one that they were born into. So yes, I have written whimsically humorous books with non-human characters, but They were written by a person who is well aware of the agony of the human world in which I am living. When I said this, the person said that maybe he would read John and Mother Goose after all. Well, if it is a serious book, okay, I'll have a look at it. Well, you might wonder whether the person would read the book and say, come on, John. I see the whimsical humor, but I don't see anything about pressing against borders hoping to be able to cross, whether legally or illegally, or people crowding around relief workers hoping to get a small container of rice to feed their families. And I would reply, no, you won't find scenes like that within the covers of these two books. A sense of the real world that we're living in is something you either bring to the books or something you don't bring to the books. The books are either a humorous vacation from the real world or they're a reminder, despite the humor, of the world in which they are written and the world in which they are being read. All the books contain is imagery. The books that I write are poetic novels. The interpretation is not provided by the author or by the characters. It's provided by the readers. Prose novels have a message on the surface. They either offer a mental vacation from everyday life or tell us about the world in which we're living. Poetic novels, the kind I write, invite us to consider and explore our own most pertinent concerns. So once again then, here is my, whoops, I'm holding the wrong one up, aren't I? Here is my current novella. That was an earlier one. John and Lewis Carroll, Wonderful, fiction by John Passfield. Is found. They're both found on Amazon. They're both found at my publisher's website, which is rocksmillspress.com. At Amazon and on my publisher's website, there's more information. At my website for both of these books, there's a planning notebook for each one in which I plan and write that particular novella. And there's a reflective journal for each one in which I discuss topics such as I've just discussed in this note. What's the point of writing these books, and what are they all about when you consider all of the elements that I pack into these books? So lastly, I'll just say thank you for watching this video.